we're happy to present to you today. I'm with Dr. Adam Rashid, who is our partner at AWS. We've created great things together with Maplesoft and AWS technologies, and really excited to share what we have here on the digital twin landscape. So I'll hand it over to Dr. Adam Rashid to provide his introduction, and then we'll cross over to me so we can give you the Maplesoft tie-in for that. Adam?
Great. Thanks, Chris. Let me share my screen here. Let me try doing that. There we go. Let me try to get this up here. And share. Actually, hang on. There we go. All right, so thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. Thanks for the introduction. Thanks for this opportunity here to share a webinar with Maplesoft. Really excited to share our message today. And as Chris mentioned, I head autonomous computing at AWS, and my team focuses on developing or working with customers who are developing autonomous systems. So we help them with their compute workloads related to the autonomous systems. So these would include things such as self-driving cars, although our team focuses primarily on industrial autonomy for now, but we're branching out into other areas as well. Now, when we talk about digital twins, before we dive deep into that topic, we look at that from an autonomous computing perspective. We look at that as a key workload or a key technology that we want to deploy at scale on AWS, working with partners such as Maplesoft. And before we dive deep into digital twins, what I'd like to do is maybe take a step back a little bit and look at the broader landscape of digital engineering and see what that means and see how digital twins fits into that segment. I'm just going to, just for clarity, I'm just going to remove the video feed here for a second. Let me remove the video. There we go. And we can just kind of focus on the slides here while we're talking. I'm trying to move to the next slide. There we go. If we take a look at terms such as digital engineering, digital twin, digital thread, one thing we find with customers is that it generates a lot of interest when we're talking to customers. However, one challenge that we find is that these terms mean completely different things to different people. So whenever we have a conversation with a customer, we always start by first level setting, just on terminology. And the purpose here is simply to try to understand and have a common terminology so that we can have a productive conversation. So let's do that here. We'll start at the bottom left. You'll see down on the bottom, I have going from left to right, sort of the main phases of a typical asset, starting from design through to manufacturing through to decommissioning at the end. And throughout each one of the phases of the life cycle of that asset, there's a lot of data being generated in different formats from different parts of the organization or different parts of the supply chain. So for example, during the early design phase, you might have PDFs that are related to business requirements. You could have CFD or finite element models and their results files, or you could have experimental test data from prototype testing. All very different types of data coming from different parts of the org. And then as you move into manufacturing, you'll start having engineering drawings, and you'll also have, say, machine instructions that go down to the actual NC machines that are building the part. And then as you get into operations, you'll find you get into operational data such as time series sensor data, inspection data, as well as other types of data, such as maintenance logs. And one of the key asks, or one of the key requests that we get from customers a lot, is the ability to query all of this data that's coming across all the different silos and different formats in a consistent data framework. And that's what we call the digital thread. That's sort of this ability to collect all, not just collect, but also query this data and be able to understand it and analyze it. And then on top of this digital thread, we've sort of identified three main, I'll call it, classes of use cases or workloads, starting with digital design. So during the design phase, then you have digital supply chain and manufacturing, and then you also have digital twins, which is usually during the operational phase. Now, we find that by sort of laying the landscape in this framework, it helps us really have our conversations with our customers to really identify what use cases are they going after and what are they actually trying to achieve, and then we can direct them to the appropriate partners, such as Maplesoft, and the appropriate AWS services that can help them most solve their problem. Now, diving deep into digital twins, for us at AWS, this has a very specific definition and meaning. And the definition of digital twin really consists of four main elements, if you will. The first is the physical system itself, which consists of the actual equipment or an assembly, but it doesn't have to be just a piece of equipment. It could be any type of physical system. It could be a biological system, an ecological system. It could be a chemical process. It could even be a human being. The point is that it's something physical that exists today. The second element of the definition is really the digital twin or the model itself. And in this case, we mean much more than just a computer science data model. Actually, what we mean is more of a response model, like a simulation, which is a model that you can give it an input and it gives back a response output. The third part of the definition is really around the data connectivity that connects the physical system to the digital twin. And this is really, really important because this data connectivity is what allows you to update the model itself to represent the true state of the actual physical system today. And this is key and core to the definition of a digital twin. The last part is the business outcome. Now, this is really, really important. We always work backwards from the desired end state and what we're trying to achieve. We don't build digital twins just for the sake of building them for fun to look at. Customers have desired business outcomes. And what the use case and the problem they're trying to solve directly has an impact on the type of digital twin and how you would construct it. So say, for example, number one, it would impact what part of the physical system needs to be modeled. A lot of times you don't have to model the entire system. The second would be, what's the level of fidelity required for the physical system model that you're making? And then third is, what is the refresh rate of the operational data? How often do you need to update the digital twin model with operational data? And just as an example, if you're modeling, say, crack growth, so you have a digital twin of crack growth, reality is for most cases, getting an operational data update once every few weeks or even once a month is probably enough for most crack growth problems. But if you're looking at trying to do a digital twin of a chemical processing plant in near real time, then you need to have data updates probably every second or approximately, or even faster. Now, we found that when working with customers, we found that we needed to really expand this interpretation of digital twin in order to cover all the use cases that our customers would bring to our attention. So we took some inspiration from the self-driving car industry, where they have a 6-level system, 0 through 5. Level 0 is really a human being driving the car. So there's no level of autonomy there at all. Level 1 would be sort of 1980s style cruise control. Level 2 is like adaptive cruise, all the way up through level 5, which is really where you don't have a steering wheel and you're actually just get into the car and tell the car where you want to go. So taking that sort of approach in mind, we came up with a 4-level system where level 4 is consistent with the definition I provided on the prior slide. Levels 1 through 3 are other categories of use cases that are driving business value today, and our customers have come to us looking for assistance in building their digital twins around those use cases. Now, we've written up a series of blogs. There's a 5-series blog. With the first one here, I've provided a QR code and a link, and I encourage you to read it to get a lot more details. But for purpose of this webinar, we'll just go through it really, really quickly. L1 is really around describing the structure of the system. And here, by structure of the system, we're talking about the engineering design. So this could include any type of CFD analysis, finite element analysis, any kind of back of the envelope calculations, anything that describes the engineering of the system, as well as any kind of immersive visual representation. So imagine the use case of wearing VR glasses, virtual reality glasses, and doing a walk through a home that hasn't been built yet. So that would also be descriptive. Level 2 is informative, and this is where we're trying to understand the state of the physical system. So this is all around data connectivity and IoT, where you're trying to get all the sensor data from the system or the equipment and getting that displayed onto a dashboard so that you can make sense of what's going on and what is the actual state of your piece of equipment. Now, we recognize that as we're moving forward, customers are seeking more than just a 2D dashboard. They're starting to look at 3D representations. So a use case where you have a virtual reality immersive environment of, say, your factory, and you can walk through your factory virtually wearing virtual reality glasses, and then click on different pumps and compressors. And when you click on the pump, say, for example, it pulls up all the sensor data and the IoT data and the state of that pump. that's a level 2 informative use case, even though it's fully immersive in virtual reality. Another level 2 use case that we're hearing about is the augmented worker assist, where you have a technician out on the shop floor. They have AR glasses, augmented reality glasses, or they have a tablet. They can hold it up to the piece of equipment, and they're able to obtain context-relevant information. So this would be engineering drawings, service history, maybe maintenance manuals, that type of information. So that's also level 2. And we call these types of use cases 3D contextual awareness or contextual visualization. Level 3 is really where you're starting to get into predictions. And in this type of case, we're specifically talking about predictions using trained models. So the implicit assumption is that the future behavior is similar to the past behavior. And typical use cases include virtual sensors and anomaly detection. Level 4 is where we're getting to the definition I described earlier, where it's a living digital twin. And in this case, the future behavior of the system is not necessarily the same as in the past. And this is very, very common in use cases where you have degradation, for example. So a really good example would be for an electric vehicle battery. The behavior and performance of a brand new battery is very, very different than the behavior and performance of a 10-year-old battery. So there is a need to keep that model fresh and updated on a regular basis using operational data that represents the true state of that battery. And you need to update the model in order to make usable predictions for what-if scenario analysis and for doing sort of probabilistic forecasts of the future. Now, I'm not going to go through in detail everything that's in orange, but I just wanted to give a flavor and a sense of the range of AWS services that we have available to help at each one of the different levels. And the main message here is to just say that across all of our partners, we have a wide variety of solutions from our partners, as well as a wide variety of services to help you solve and address your particular use case, no matter where you are on the L1 through L4 spectrum. And come see us, and we're more than happy to work with you and help you. What I do want to do is focus on 3 particular services out of this whole sort of a list of them. The first one is really related to an L2, level 2 digital twin, and it's called AWS IoT TwinMaker. And this is a new service that we've recently launched that helps customers build that 3D contextual awareness situation that I was talking about. And it really addresses 3 main customer pain points. The first is the connection of disparate data from disparate sources. So we hear from customers that their data exists in multiple different locations, and rather than copy all that data into a central repository, we build connectors out to each one of those data stores, and we put a semantic layer and knowledge graph on top of that so that you're able to then connect to those data as you need to. The second pain point is really around keeping the data models fresh. So we hear from customers that it's a lot of work. It's quite a challenge understanding the asset configuration, the data model of every single piece of equipment that you're trying to model. But then once that's done, it's even more challenging keeping those models up to date. So we make that easy through this service by providing the ability to have API connections and through the console to make it easy to actually keep the models fresh and update them as needed. The third part is creating effective visualizations. So once again, I mentioned a lot of customers are starting off with 2D dashboards, but we're very rapidly moving to 3D representations. So we have a full SDK kit to help convert your 3D assets into 3D scenes. And then we have the ability through our console to then connect these entities that are inside your 3D visual scene, so a pump or a compressor, and connect that to the data stream that's coming off of your IoT data, so that you can then merge the two in a seamless sort of customer experience. Now that's for level 2, and we have a QR code here and a web link. Please take a look when you have a chance. For level 3, we have a series of services that are around our industrial portfolio. And the one I want to highlight is really Amazon Lookout for Equipment, which is one that's really geared towards anomaly detection. So this service is set up to very easily be able to monitor and analyze machine data. And then it uses machine learning algorithms to detect anomalous signals, which could be precursors of impending failure. And you can do this relatively easily without having to be a data scientist or a machine learning specialist yourself. Now, another use case that's really focused around level 3 is the idea of virtual sensors. So we'll hear a little bit later from Chris how we can use Maplesoft's MapleSim product to make a virtual sensor for a level 3 digital twin. Now for level 4, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about our approach for level 4, because this is something that's relatively new to the market. Level 4 really fits at the intersection of deep domain expertise, machine learning, deep learning, as well as probabilistic modeling. And it's at the intersection of these where you find the ability to make predictive models typically using probabilistic methods such as Bayesian estimation to make what-if scenario analysis and probabilistic forecasts of the future. Now, these methods, they exist today in certain, say, R&D hubs and in academia, but they're certainly not widely available to your average population. And that's one of the goals we have at AWS. In fact, it's a personal goal of mine to democratize the techniques, democratize the methods, bring these methods to our customer base, to the masses, so that everyone can build a level 4 digital twin for their particular use case. Now, we have, in order to make this easier for our customers, we did release an open source code called the AWS DoPM. So I've put a QR code and a URL, and this code, what it allows you to do is build and deploy level 4 digital twins at scale and do the model update as well. That's the key part, to make it a living digital twin. Now, going into the details of that is probably beyond the scope of this webinar. So I do encourage you to please check out the code, download the GitHub, go through the README files, go through the example, and then please reach out to us. And we're more than happy to help you here. I will dive a little bit deep into level 4, just a little bit more, just so that you can understand what the workflow would look like. And it's the same GitHub repository. It's basically a 2-phase workflow. The first phase is around building the model and performing the initial calibration. So you would start with a training data set, and you would build a model using any sort of known technique. It could be a data-driven technique, it could be physics-based. We're increasingly seeing hybrid models, actually, more and more. You would then take that model and perform a sensitivity analysis to understand which parameters of that model have the largest impact on the output response that you care about. And then you would use the calibration techniques that are available in the AWS DoPM toolkit to perform that initial probabilistic calibration for those parameters. Now, once it's calibrated, you would then take that model and deploy it in production. And once in production, the first step is you use that model to make a prediction of the measured values, the values that we'll be measuring through sensors. Then the operational data comes in, and you compare those measured values from the physical system with the predictions that were made from the model, and you calculate an error. If the error is below your threshold, then there's no change. You just go back and the loop continues. If the error is above a threshold, then that triggers a model update algorithm, a calibration. This is a probabilistic calibration, a Bayesian estimation technique, to then update the model parameters, and then the model is now updated and the cycle continues again. And in this manner, your model is continuously being updated over time as new information and new data is coming from the physical system, so that you have a living model that actually represents the behavior of the physical system at any moment in time. And later on, you'll hear from Chris about some of the techniques and methods and the ways that we're working together with Maplesoft so that we can take a MapleSim model and wrap it into the AWS DoPM framework so that we can take a MapleSim model and make it a level 4 digital twin. Now, I've covered a lot of ground here today to provide the AWS context and how we're looking at digital twins. What I'd like to do now is hand it over to Chris and let Chris describe how Maplesoft views digital twins and how we're working together to bring Maplesoft's product suite to the market and help customers use Maplesoft products to build digital twins, and then how we can work together to bring those models onto AWS so you can deploy these digital twins at scale on AWS. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Chris. Chris?
Thanks, Adam. That was a great overview, and you can see that AWS truly is a leader in this space, not only with your thought leadership, but also making it easy for people to get started. You know, just having that GitHub repository there, and actually having a 2D QR code there. I'll add those to my slides in the future, but for now, I'm going to switch over and share my screen. First, I'll stop my video. Okay. We're going to dive into a specific application for digital twins and applying it to industrial assets. And I'm going to walk you through what we really mean by that in terms of our simulation platform, how it can be useful, some of the business outcomes that you'll get from that if you're a company looking to start your journey here, and then how it's connected to the AWS ecosystem. So I like to start by talking about the simulation spectrum, the modeling spectrum, when it comes to modeling, simulation, digital twins, all of those. It can mean many different things to many different people. That Adam hinted at this as well in his section. I have a graphic here of a production line. And really, this type of simulation, this type of modeling, this type of twin is looking at the business problem of production flow and production throughput. Here, typical technology that's used behind the scenes to create these simulations are the game engine technology, and this game engine is found in video games and various things, but it's really concerned with product flow and product throughput. So at a high level, this is a manufacturing product line where you can get all kinds of answers on how productive you can be once your machine, equipment, and your design is done and it's on the factory floor. If we look on the other side of simulation, here we're looking at the part level, right? So the stress analysis concerned with that part. This is where engineering teams and engineers themselves make sure that the part can handle the stresses. In order to understand this and design a part well, you need a certain level of simulation tool that uses FEA solvers. This is mathematics purposely used in the situation here to determine if your part can handle stresses. These two ends of the simulation spectrum are very important, but we're going to look at today is where Maplesoft strongly fits. It's on the machine design and the system level performance. And here we use our math engine that's been around for 40 years, combined with Mandelica components, which are mathematical descriptions of real world objects that perform and behave in the way that they would in the real world. And then you can get certain types of answers when you're using this type of technique, the system level simulation. When it comes down to machine performance, for example, you could take a look at vibration and reducing vibration. You could take a look at forces, the gripper force on the product itself. And you could take a look at motor torque and motor loading. When Adam mentioned the autonomous vehicles here, that you would see electric motors can be analyzed and optimized for performance. And this is the world that we're talking about today that ends up ultimately connecting to the AWS ecosystem in IoT TwinMaker. So how do we get started? What do we take a look at here? So let's apply Adam's descriptions of the levels of digital twin and see how it brings it into what what's going to be addressed going forward. So the four categories of digital twins have different strengths across the product life cycle, before it exists, while it's operating, and predicting future behavior through the whole life cycle of the machine. You can build a digital twin to achieve one role, or you can extend the digital twin to cover other phases. So let's look how this plays out. And this is typical. I think most of us in engineering manufacturing companies know this development life cycle from concepts all the way to production and then decommission. This really is a model-based approach to digital twins that we're talking about, such as the way it's developed here. It doesn't rely on an existing machine to be developed. It relies on the model first being created from a canvas of components that are described by mathematical equations. Where do you see benefit in using this technique? It's in conceptual development and it's in virtual commissioning. For conceptual development, very early experimentation can be done. For virtual commissioning, this happens long before the engineers actually commission and get that product onto the production line for the first time. You could actually run your control code against the virtual model and tune that control code to optimize the performance of that machine before it actually gets into production. Then we move on to production operation. Here, the applications are various, and using the same model, using the same platform, you can apply this for virtual sensors. Since the dynamic response of the digital twin is built on rigorous physical laws, certain calculated properties may be sufficient to use as inputs to the control system, either to replace a faulty sensor until it can be fixed or eliminates its use altogether. Both scenarios can provide a significant reduction in cost. And on the other aspect here, I'll just touch on the other one, is training and sales tools, so that you can use this model applied at the end to use it for training staff for production, training operators out in the field, or use it as a sales tool to run scenarios for your customer that may be looking at a new design and want to know it'll meet their design criteria, it'll meet their needs. And product enrichment and enhancement down at the end of the last stage here. Really, a digital twin allows manufacturers to ask important questions like, how fast can the machine safely perform an operation? So here you're looking at cycles per minute, or how heavy of a load can it move without needing to push requests back through to engineering. This allows manufacturers to provide greater innovations and differentiate themselves from the competition. The key areas of value for industrial assets, I'll touch on this quickly. Overall, again, it's machine design, saving time and money using virtual prototyping instead of physical prototyping. Machine control, speed up testing and validation of PLC code using virtual commissioning. This generates fast, efficient simulation code for real-time hardware and loop applications. Machine operation, right? Accurate prediction of asset behavior that ties to predictive maintenance. Faster response by support teams reduces downtime, and the virtual environment can be used for troubleshooting issues and training. And then overall asset management, Maplesoft models plus the operational data it comes together to give you a living digital twin. And this can be used for quality testing, monitoring fleets in real time, forecasting business metrics such as yield, utilization, and throughput. We hear companies all the time talking about the challenges, to get started. There's a lot of unknown. And once you do get over that hurdle of unknown, perhaps you've done some research, or you have colleagues that are working for different companies that have done this before. There's certain categories of challenges that kind of bubble up, and I hope that we could share how to address these today. Let me cover some of these issues and hurdles. On the modeling side, integration of modeling tools with existing manufacturing tool chain. Imagine if you're new to this, you're introducing a new software tool into your existing workflow, connecting it perhaps with a way of doing things. Sometimes that can be challenging and difficult to achieve, right? So it's also hard to achieve the required fidelity across multiple domains. And when we say domains, we mean engineering disciplines applied to a modeling platform. So can we connect the mechanical engineering world to the software engineering world, to the electrical engineering world, to the hydraulic systems? That's also a challenge. Sometimes companies bump into simulation speed is too slow to get real-time behavior or to get real results out of it. And then there could be a lengthy learning curve for new tools as well. On the data side, huge volume of uncategorized operational data could be a challenge. Some physical properties are hard to measure during operation. On the total solution side, the ease of use of containers and connectors and data-centric approach doesn't support tuning of the actual model. These are some of the challenges we hear, and it can be overwhelming to deploy across multiple departments as well. So what can an easier way look like? What can modeling look like for you? What can modeling look like if you had support from people who have done this before? In the easy world, modeling can look like, let's reuse some existing design. Let's reuse your existing tool chain. Let's import the 3D CAD that your mechanical engineers have already created and bring that into the modeling environment. So importing CAD files and then exporting into a format that can connect to other software is very important. the next stage of that is actually doing the modeling itself. And then the modeling hopefully comes from a place where components are described already for you, and those components represent different domains. Control, sensors, mechanical, thermal, electrical, actuators, all in one platform. After the model is built, you can actually tune it. So you have visualization window with the response outputs, providing different inputs can show you the behavior of the actual machine. And that tuning can also be applied, connected to AWS IoT TwinMaker, where all the data is, data of existing machines, data of previous responses as well, can be applied to that to tune the model. At the end of it, at the ideal case, visualizations help a lot, right? So visualizing what that data looks like and continuing to tune that. Imagine now that you have a model of a machine or an asset that is behaving in an ideal way, and you have deployed several assets or machines across an industrial landscape like a manufacturing plant. You can monitor the behavior on the sensors of your equipment and compare it to the actual ideal model. And then you could have a flag that detects anomalies, and then you can address those anomalies based on that. That's the power of combining MapleSim's digital twin with IoT TwinMaker. So let's take an actual example here. One slide on a packaging machine that was done. So digital models of a robotic arm hardware were created using MapleSim. The existing product range was redesigned, applying analysis tools on the digital twin, and a visualization app and dashboard were created for the pre-sales team to qualify customers. What were the business outcomes of this whole process by this company taking this on to add innovation into their existing design? The redesigned robotic arms used 50% less components and sensors, cutting the build costs and time to source parts. As a result of the enhanced performance, the customers reduced the number of models in their 2022 lineup by 34% from 2020, reducing inventory and supporting marketing effort. And then faster sales qualifications, using the simpler simulation workflow, reduced the quoting time from an average of 5 days down to 2 days. So here you have a new tool, a new way of doing things introduced to a company, and immediately had multiple areas of benefit on the business side. Once the company invested in learning it and deploying it in a way that would achieve some of their business outcomes they were hoping to have right from the get-go. How do you get started? I get this question a lot as well. How do you actually start? And I always say, start small. Start in incremental steps. The areas of application could be vast, but Maplesoft and AWS have made it easy to actually get started. So determine your priority and your business objectives, and start simple. Look for ways to connect disparate data sources, reuse the virtual modeling environment for your offline testing, and lean on those with experience. We help our customers around the world get started by offering services to take a look at your existing deployment, your existing machine, and your existing processes, and then advise on that. And it may not be one stop fits all. So we're very open with our customers and our clients on making sure that the business objectives that they're hoping to achieve can be achieved.